and introduce everybody. So welcome to another Wednesday morning, a weekly moment. And what do we do every Wednesday? We just have a look at and chew the fat around this concept of humanizing transformation, because we know that when we are able to humanize transformation, we are able to accelerate success. And the idea of becoming more agile, small a, at scale is real. And it's lovely, actually, because you just come off a community of practice with our practitioners, some of our practitioners, and we've been talking about legacy. You know, the end of a project and program is actually the beginning, and what does it, you know, what does it mean for the end users? How do we support the end users being, you know, accountable and responsible and taking ownership of evolving their own practice around the new technology or the restructure or whatever we're talking about? So that's really, really been a fantastic conversation, especially talking about the end of the year and the beginning of next. So today, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take an incredibly high balcony view of, you know, strategy, vision, and all of that malarkey. So I want to take a strategic approach to transformation for 2023. So whether you're just doing a retrospective, you know, of where the program or project is, or indeed you're prepping for a brand new transformation that's kicking off in the new year, what I want to do today is I just want to give you some insights that we use that support humanizing transformation in order for you to reduce friction, increase engagement, connection, you know, get rid of that separation, which is what we were talking about a lot last week, and really, really accelerate success. So in order to do that, I want to just kind of get us into the mood a wee bit. And I think what is really important for us to remember as practitioners, and, you know, for all of us that are in the world of change and transformation, and it doesn't matter in what capacity, but it's not about getting better. It's a matter of being different. And I think that is such an important little quote to start off today's session. It's very easy for us to think about what do we need to improve. But if we're realigning, if we're reviewing strategy, then, you know, we really ought to be trying to push and challenge ourselves into the difference bucket as opposed to the better bucket. And, you know, that's a really, really good challenge for us. And humanizing transformation is a super, super way of doing that. So what I want to do today is I want to share two approaches, and within those two approaches will be 7 focus points. So, you know, you might want to take 1 from here and 2 from there. It doesn't matter. But I want to share with you 2 approaches that we have and use, and within those 2 approaches, 7 focus points to help you to reassess, reflect, or in the design of your transformation projects or programs, so that you can humanize it for accelerated success. So the first approach that I want to talk about is the big picture. And we are coming to the end of a tumultuous year, economically, politically, environmentally. And we know that we are heading into another year that will have no doubt a huge amount of potential and possibility, rather than you know, volatility and VUCA. So we go for UPOPO versus VUCA. So the big picture for me is something important that we always work with our customers on, is just starting to understand, what is it about our strategy? What is it about our transformation that we need to be aware of, that our frame of reference needs to be wide enough around, so that we can approach it as this. We can approach it as understanding the extremities of change. Now, a lot of people say the only thing that's constant in life is change. I absolutely agree with that. It's a true quote. What I will also say, though, is that the extremes of change are what we want to really be aware of. We really want to recognize that the extremities of change are increasing, even though change itself is still the constant. So big picture focus is really important. And of course, the way that we address big picture focus is through the 3 tenets. And if you haven't been introduced to these before, this is, you know, time and again, I come back to these, so incredibly important. It doesn't matter how small or how tactical or technological the project and program that you're working on is, the 3 tenets should have some efficacy at the top and the tail of your project or program in order for you to humanize it, in order for you to push it into difference and not just better. So a reminder for some and an introduction of something new for others, the 3 tenets. And the first tenet is, of course, digitally transforming. And again, I think it's, as we say, communication, at the 7th time of communication, it's when the user, when the individual hears it for the first time. And for me, it's really important for us to always remember that we're not in the world of digital transformation. We're in the world of becoming a digitally transforming human system, and that's what's so incredibly important for us. And again, kind of irrelevant what project and program we're working on. The users, we want the users to become digitally transforming. So, if it's bringing a new technology on board, what we want to be able to do is we want to know that the legacy that we bring to the project and program at the end, what success looks like at the end, is that the users have got some competency and some sense and motivation around evolving their own use of that technology at the end of the project and program, that they've got that motivation, that they've got that sense of followership. So it's so incredibly important. And of course, the way that we begin that digitally transforming evolution, that identity and repositioning, is through role model leadership. Super, super important. And the next tenet is humanity and community. And what we mean is, this is bringing the human to the heart of everything. And bringing the human to the heart of a project or program is not just focusing on the end user. It is focusing on every audience that is involved across the entire value chain for your project or your program. Your end users will be better served if you understand, know, and have connected deeply and authentically with all of the users. Who are your suppliers for technology or structure or consultancy, etc.? Do you just know them for the job that they're doing, or do you actually know them? So it's really, really important. So stakeholders, suppliers, partners, leaders, community, all of those audiences that lead up to the end user are very, very important. And one of the things that we do there to ensure that we've got that kind of audience value chain happening is a stakeholder orientation workshop where we share a simple SWOT analysis. And it could be with your supplier, getting both of you together and having a SWOT analysis workshop. Where are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats as an organization? These are ours. They're outside of the realms of the project and program, but it brings a sense of humanity at a system level. And we can do that in conversation with individuals as well. So very, very important for us to recognize that. The other thing as well is community. And community is important, not just for our end users, but also for us as practitioners of change. And the key question here is 2 things. Number one, how connected do people feel with what is happening with this? And how good do they feel? Connectivity, connection, and goodness. And that bubbles up the whole conversation around belonging is so incredibly important. So human-centered leadership is not just end user leadership. It's not just, bringing my authentic self to the party, which is so incredibly important. It's really understanding that every single human is human. So it's who you are, not what you do. And then ensuring that we speak less about culture and speak more about community. The third tenet, which is so super important, is also the regeneration. And regeneration is going to be really big in 2023. We're already starting to see it in press. For the last, maybe 10 years, there's been this little conversation, if not argument, around transformation. Should it be digital transformation or transformation? Should we ditch the D word or not ditch the D word? Is Is transformation digital anyway, or is the digital transformation separate to transfer? All of that kind of stuff. But that's starting to take a back seat now, that when the front seat and the front conversation, what's top of mind with a lot of people now is this sense of regeneration. And what we mean by regeneration is what is ethical in terms of practice and decision making around what we are doing. Are there any things about the project and program that we're working on that might compromise the safety of the end user, might compromise their personal identifiable information, might actually, need them to take ownership of it rather than us? So the transference and the understanding of where ownership is. And the other thing as well is the environment. It's planet, right? It's humanity and planet again. And this is sustainability. And each and every one of us can actually adopt more sustainable practices in terms of how we ourselves engage with change and transformation and our project, but equally designing it in. So understanding where sustainability and environmental measures might be present in our project and program. And if we haven't already done it, super, super, super important for us to do that. And that's a really big reset point if you're having a big retrospective on your project or program. Where is it being regenerative in terms of ethical, and where is it being regenerative in terms of sustainability and environment? Super, super important. And the 3 tenets are great because you can keep coming back at them and chipping away and understanding and uncovering a new area of value and power for your program or for your transformation. Super, super important. And the second thing that I want to share with everybody today is a leadership model. And this leadership model that I want to share with everybody today is a model that we use in a program which is called Transformation for Non-Transformational Leaders. And it's something that I think is really important for us all as practitioners of change and transformation also to be aware of. Some of you might be aware of some of the areas of it, some of you might not. But essentially, it's a leadership model for modern leadership, and we ourselves as practitioners are modern leaders, and we call it the 4M model for modern leadership. So the first M is all about mindset. It's who we are and how we think, and how we think drives our behaviors and our emotions, that drive the actions and the words that come out of our mouth, that drive the way that we respond to the environment and conditions and other people around us. Mindset, so incredibly important. Who we are is how we lead as modern leaders, and what we do follows. It's very, very important for us to remember that. The second M is what we call moonshot. And essentially that is making sure that we have humanized the vision and the strategy, that we have made sure that it's not just capturing people's minds, it's also capturing people's hearts. So we might be on a project that is delivering a new technology because the technology that we've currently got is old. Okay, so intellectually and cognitively, I understand that we need to put in a new technology that's capturing my head, but where is it capturing my heart if I'm one of the users that needs to use this new technology? There has to be something in there that connects me. What's the, what does this look like for me? What about me, right? Those are questions that we need to be answering in our design. So we call that the moonshot, and that's the second M. The third M is slightly interesting, and remembering that today's session is about strategy. It's about having a retrospective and resetting our strategy at the end of 2022, or designing a new strategy for 2023. And this is really important at that very high level, because this is about how we design the concept of the projects and programs of the portfolio, or design the work packages around a single project or program. So it's what we call a mission orientated way of thinking. And that comes not purely from our framework, and that's attributed to University College London. And I'll talk about that in a moment. If we have traveled that beautiful journey of who I am, not what I do, I've done some work on mindset, I understand modernity in terms of my own thinking, that I am, really confident in that I can stand tall in my own power of who I am before my qualifications, my experience, my expertise come into the conversation. That's really important. That's mindset. Second one, repositioning our vision and our strategy, not to make it just intellectually right for people, but to make it emotionally right for people is so incredibly important. And then we've got the missions. So making sure that what we call radical collaboration is in point. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. And the fourth M is we're in delivery. Okay, now we're doing this. How are we going to do this? And the key is this, is making sure that we are shifting through micro moments, through micro shifts, tiny little changes. And those of you that have been on previous mission briefings and webinars with me will recognize that what I'm talking about here is the model of Maya, most advanced yet acceptable. But what is most important here is it's not about improvement. Remember that quote I gave you at the start? It's not about improvement, it's about difference. So in this model, when we're talking about transformation, when we're talking about humanizing transformation, micro shifts that are about bringing difference to the tiny moment of now, not trying to make it better all the time. And that enables innovation to come into our practice of daily life. That's a very important key to unlock sustainability, so that when we walk away, when the budget is stopped, when the project is over, we know that our end users are able to continually evolve through that first tenet. So I want to talk to you very briefly about each one of these now. So the first M in the model of modern leadership is, of course, mindset. And that really is our heartland, who we are as an organization, the Dilyn Way framework, the practitioner program around humanizing transformation. Its spinal cord is mindset, our belief system, how we think. If we haven't spent time or given ourselves permission to prioritize our mindset, our ways of thinking, moving into 2023, I urge everybody to give yourself that permission. It's so important, because who we are is a heck of a lot more important than what we do, an awful lot more important than what we do. And mindset, of course, is closely linked to our identity. And our identity is what people remember. You know, people remember our identity. They remember who we are. And it's really important for us to recognize that. Our mindset is our belief system. It is the norms in our behaviors that people, understand, the rituals that we bring to our daily practice. People see this stuff, right? And our habits, the things that happen unconsciously in our unconscious brain. So beliefs and norms and habits, to really start to become conscious and to start thinking about how you're developing and maturing and evolving those three elements is where mindset work becomes a powerful thing for you. And what it does is it gives you a modern identity. So it's not saying, hey, Mel's really great at mentoring and coaching. No, it's more about Mel. Yeah, there's this sense of modernity about who she is. She's got this real identity of kind of, modernization and always looking for transformation and difference. I'm not saying that that's what people say about me, but just as an example. So really, really, really super important. Who we are in the eyes of others is only really dealt with when we go into our own mindset work. And we have all heard, probably in press and read about the difference between the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And we tend to think that somebody is fixed or growth, but we know that that's not true. We know that there are triggers. A human can trigger, a condition can trigger, an environment around us, the system can trigger us into either a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. A human being is not one or the other. It is the construct of the triggers that put us into either growth or fixed. So part of our mindset work as modern leaders is building as many positive triggers to keep us into growth mindset, to put us into growth mindset. Super, super, super important. And then the second element of mindset for us as modern leaders is, of course, the 7 mindsets of modern business and leadership. And that is what's so incredibly important. they directly tap into the 3 tenets. You know, if you're thinking about who you are as an individual, if you're thinking about yourself and what's next for you in your professional career and your professional development, what, you know, how you bring purpose into your own life, you can go to the 3 tenets, but it's very, very difficult for you to break those 3 tenets into specific things for you to create a development path for yourself. And that's where the 7 dimensions and the 7 mindsets come into play. They become the spinal cord. They are the breakdown of those 3 tenets. And what I'm saying there is, if we are focusing and giving ourselves permission and time and space to evolve and develop all 7 of these mindsets holistically in the eyes of others, we will absolutely be a modern leader. But if we've got expertise and experience in 1 or 2 of those mindsets, and therefore we're leading with that, we will be known for what we do and not for who we are. So the holism of those 7 mindsets is super important. And when we have got a nice harmony of, in terms of how we're developing all 7 of those mindsets within our profile, what that will mean is, by default, those 3 tenets will be shifting. We will be adding value and contributing to shift across those 3 tenets in any project or program that we're doing. It's by default. If we've got those 7 mindsets in play and constantly evolving in who we are, then, you know, our questioning, the way we think, the way we do our practice, our behaviors, all of the strategy and visions that we're involved in will always anchor back to those 3 tenets. The next one is moonshots. And, you know, you might have an appetite to know more about moonshots. And if you do, or you want to explore more, or you want to do more around this moonshot, then please pop it into the chat, because I'm more than happy to share some links with you around what we mean by moonshot. But there's a couple of things really for me. If you think about a moonshot, what comes up for you? Probably NASA or a space rocket, I don't know. But it's a monumental effort. It is a lofty goal. And in other words, it's a giant leap. And this is really important because, you know, a moonshot is the vision that you've created for a project or a program is really directly related to the structure and to the organization and to the system or to the product. But what we want to do is we really want to capture hearts and minds. So repositioning it into a lofty goal, a monumental effort, a giant leap. That is what Google says. And moonshot thinking is something that comes out of the Google philosophies, where they talk about 10x versus 10%. 10%, if you apply it to strategy or vision, will give you improvement. And that's basically the better of the first quote that we had. But if we're really pushing for 10 times, then what we're doing is we're moving into the space of transformation. We're moving into the space of innovation. So just thinking about that for positioning a moonshot for our vision and strategy is super important, which then brings us to the next bit of moonshot thinking, which is positioning. So the first thing about moonshot thinking is how big. Second thing about moonshot thinking is capturing hearts and minds. And that's where the work of the University College London comes into play. It's brilliant. It's so incredibly important. And the Institute of Innovation and Public Policy in the University College London work with governments and the National Health Service here in the UK to help reposition strategy, to design strategy as a moonshot to capture hearts and minds. And that is all driven by the NASA Apollo series in the 1960s. That's where this all comes from. So it's public knowledge. It's not IP driven. It's out there for us to use within our own projects and programs. But if we want to go from better to difference, if we want to go from 10% to times 10, we also need to understand how to reposition vision and strategy into a moonshot. So we're bringing people on the journey in terms of their energy and their emotion, and not just in terms of their intellect. That's what we mean by moonshot. It is getting us to push beyond better to difference. That's the Google 10x, and also to reposition from vision into moonshot. And that's super, super important. If we've got any struggle on that, you know, if we're kind of going, God, I don't even know how to get to 10x, Mel. I'm just on a little project that all we're doing is putting in some new technology, or all we're doing is actually launching some new features to this project. That's absolutely fine. We can still push boundary out. We can still push us to difference. And the way that we're able to do that is through capturing hearts and minds. And we can use something very, very easy. We can use the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. And we can just tap anything into there. I have yet to come across a project, doesn't matter how small, how technical it is, how structurally driven it is, I have yet to find a project that I cannot relate to something here in the SDGs. And when we can do that, we know that there's something so much bigger that this is connected to, that when we're talking about it, if we have that connection with some grand challenge or something much, much bigger than ourselves, we know that when we're talking with the users and they can see that context, we can capture their energy and their heart, their energy and their emotion, and not intellectually just say, this is the need that we're answering here with this new featured project or technology. Really, really important for us to bring that into play. Which brings me to missions. And missions is the third element of our 4M model for modern leaders. And this is really kind of, you know, it connects in and it follows on from the moonshot, but it is in and of itself very, very, very uniquely different. And in an ideal situation, if we have any ownership or involvement in the way that projects and programs are designed, in the governance of how it is structured, a PMO or even informally, then mission orientation, understanding the concept of mission orientation will really help us and will be valuable for us to have a conversation with our colleagues around. It's so incredibly important. Now, the UCL quote for a mission is a concrete target, an achievable step towards a grand challenge that contextualizes projects. Now, you know, that, yeah, I mean, you know, that sounds like a bunch of words really, doesn't it? But what it is basically saying is a mission will include eventually a set of projects that will be guided by the direction set by the mission. So the mission is setting direction. So the mission can actually become the strategic how. How we do it is through mission orientation. And what's important here is the steps that we take to place projects underneath. So a lot of the time you've got your vision, and then what you do is you go, right, okay, how many projects do we need? But there's something that we need to do prior to that, which is called mission orientation, that allows us to determine which projects and how those projects look. And that is really, really important. And what we mean by that is what's called in UCL cross-sectoral innovation, and what we call radical collaboration. So let me give you an example of this, because it's a little bit hard to get your head around. We might have a grand challenge, and a grand challenge might be something about supporting the longevity of life, specifically for the elderly within our community. So we want to make sure that the elderly, you know, the elders in our community get to live longer and prosper. So it's all, you know, that's the big challenge. So how do we come together around that grand challenge to think about longevity, to think about well-being and happiness for the elders within our community? So we will think about that. So what we want to do is we want to be guided by some missions, not projects, guided by some missions. So what might that look like? Are there some particular areas that we might want to look at? And there might be an area that we want to look at, which is about, you know, cross-generational engagement. So thinking about how we can get and integrate the elderly in our community with all of the other generations, all the way from the young, all the way to the old. So how do we get cross-generational community and conversation to flourish? That might be a mission. Now, what we might do from that mission guide is go, right, okay, Mel, I'm ready to design some projects around that. Or we can have a project with the primary schools, and we can create create a project where we might be able to get some kids from the primary school to go to the old people's home, or to, you know, just look at some areas where there is a high a concentration of elderly people, maybe living even on their own in the flats over there by the high street, and we can get some initiatives going there. That's going to be my project. That's not how this works. So if you want to take a mission orientated approach to that grand challenge and that mission guidance around the elderly flourishing and building longevity, what we do is we have what we call radical collaboration, what's called here cross-sectoral innovation. And what it is it's conversations with less obvious, non-obvious, as well as obvious players, stakeholders. So let's bring the university in to have a conversation. Let's bring health in to have a conversation. Health might be obvious, but what I'm going to do is there's a manufacturing company that's just on the periphery of the community geographically. We're going to bring them into this conversation. Now, they don't have any direct relation to the mission, but actually then they're non-obvious, but we're bringing them in. And a lot of this mission orientation has worked incredibly well in countries like New Zealand, where they have taken the idea of bringing different sectors together to chew the fat of this mission direction, to see what the art of the possible is from all of these diverse lenses, not just the obvious lenses. And only at that point do we drop out into, okay, so what could a project look like here? That conversation is really important. And I challenge a lot of our customers on that, because they say, oh, we collaborate with, you know, health when I'm talking to a local authority, or yeah, we collaborate with, you know, higher education when I'm talking to a publishing company, but actually they're obvious. And yes, that's great that you're doing that because they're obvious conversations, but where is your non-obvious conversation coming from? And if you go back to the original moonshot concept that I just talked about with NASA, if you go back to the 1960s, this is exactly what they did in America. They identified their mission direction, but instead of just working with the obvious players only, scientists and physicists, they brought industry and education and arts and cultural elements into play. And that's how other innovations were sparked off. So you think about Velcro, you think about you know, the vacuum cleaner, you think about the conceptualization of DARPA in and of itself, the Innovation Hub. All of those things came as a result of that area of this whole piece, this whole journey. It didn't come out of the missions, it didn't come out of a vision, and it didn't come out of a bunch of people sitting in a room and going, how are we going to design our projects and programs around our vision and strategy? They repositioned to Moonshot, they identified mission guidance areas, and then they got loads of people, obvious and non-obvious, in the room to bring difference and innovative conversation and possibility into play. And from there, I ideated the projects and the programs that they were to work on. Super, super, super important. So thinking about mission orientation is massive, and I you know, I really talk about it a lot because I'm so motivated by it. And this concept is being put into place here in some of the health areas in the UK, which, you know, you can go and have a look at some of that. If you go to the UCL, there's so many case studies. Go and have a look to see if there might be a case study that slightly aligns with a project or a program that you're working on or might be working on in the future, and go and read that. There's so many white papers there and case studies that you can actually tap into. So what we've got is this. We've got a huge reframe, a massive reframe that directly enables humanized transformation at that very big strategic level. The vision is no longer, it is now a moonshot. So yeah, the vision is great for our structure and our scaffolding and our organization, the zeros are one and the bits and pieces and the buildings, but you know what? It's not capturing hearts and minds like the moonshot, just reposition. Strategy becomes mission guidance. Where are the missions to guide us towards that moonshot? Goals then don't just become about the what we need to do. They become about the who do we need to be in order to achieve this. So we're moving towards identity. And the big kind of kahuna that we're looking for, of course, is where the sense of projects and programs kind of drops by the wayside, and our conversation and the energy is more about how people are moving, how people are evolving, not our end users, but everybody, the leaders and the practitioners that are involved in the project and program. And that's what real humanizing transformation is all about. Now, of course, this is about strategy. This is the high level stuff. And an awful lot of what I've just talked about here could well be outside of your area of permission and remit. But equally, there are elements of here that we can have conversations with people, and we can just at least help to nudge people's frame of reference, their sense of knowing, and it towards the opportunity and the potential of this way of thinking around transformation for the future. And certainly if we're able to do this, of course, those extremes of change that are happening and are continuing to increase as we travel through this crazy world that we're living in, the right-hand side of this screen is definitely the one that I'll put my money on. For success, for connectivity, for happiness, for feeling good, all of those wonderful, wonderful things. But there's also another M. We're not at the end of our journey, because if we've had that lovely ability to reposition, to think about ourselves on mindset, to create a moonshot, to think about how we're going to design the activities and the work packages of our project and program to make them mission orientated and to bring that non-obvious difference into how we design that, it's not the end, because we've got then delivery, haven't we? And it's really super important for us to recognize that delivery is about tiny little shifts, because it doesn't matter what project we're on, there is an end user somewhere, because otherwise it's not really a project. If we think about all of our projects, there's an end user somewhere. And we want to understand the tiny little shifts that are all going in the right direction. And this is something that I talked about recently in a community of practice with our trainee and qualified practitioners, which is a sense of, if we've got everybody doing small little shifts and we've got this start point and everybody's in this point, if we're moving one step in any direction, then we're just moving potentially 6 steps in one. We're just moving one step further from where we started, but just in different directions. What we really want to be thinking about with micro shifts is we want to be seeing how all of the tiny little shifts that we're taking are all in the same direction. So instead of taking 6 steps just in any direction, which means the total amount of steps we've taken away from where we are is just one unit, one step, but actually moving everybody in the same direction, it means that when we're looking back and measuring, what we've got is 6 steps. We have moved forward by 6 steps. It's so incredibly important. And there's different ways that we can do that. We can think about how do we bring action forward instead of trying to know everything. If we can encourage action rather than what do we need to do? We need to get it perfect. We need to get the theory all done. We need to get the business cases done. What actions can we take first in order for them to inform us? Making sure that we're creating directly from the moonshot backwards. So let's not design from where we are to make it better. Let's design from the moonshot to make it different. That's massive. And that's creating forward. And then we can measure back for progress, which brings us to practice makes progress. Repetition. Repetition is so incredibly important when it comes to micro shifts. Repetition is incredibly important when it comes to people movements. How are you in your project and program able to support the repetition of practice for your users? So it might be a new feature or function for a website, a product, a new technology coming into the organization. It's not just the skill. Once the skill is being taught in a training session, then it's done. It's about how do we take responsibility and ownership for the end users having repeated practice of that, so that they get familiar with it, so that they are able to build their confidence. And if they build confidence through repeated practice, not only are they going to progress, but they're also going to be self-motivated to be curious about, well, if I can do this, what else can I do? And starting to evolve, and that's digitally transforming. So that's back to the first tenet. Really, really important. And it gives us that sense of experimental data actions from insight instead of analogous data. Tiny, tiny little micro shifts allow us to really, really travel towards that moonshot. If we are only going to make what we've got better, we may never shift very far from our start point. However, if we absolutely understand our moonshot and we've captured people's hearts and minds, what we can do is we can design all of our shifts towards that moonshot. And the final thing that I will say to everybody is this, practice makes progress, as I've mentioned. And it's really important because if we look at our reptilian mind, our old-fashioned mind, the mind that came from the caveman, that learns through repetition. So think about your project and program and how you are able to support things being done repetitively for your users, or role modeling through your champions the repetition of a behavior or an action. Because if people can see and be exposed to repeated actions, repeated narrative, then that's how our caveman brain learns, and there will be an aha moment. There will be a moment where the brain says, gosh, it's so many times, therefore it is. I've heard this so many times, I've seen this so many times, I've been exposed to this so many times, therefore it is. And therefore it becomes a truth for the individual. And that's a really, really powerful technique when we're thinking about user adoption. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And we don't tend to do that when we're thinking about user adoption. We're thinking about skill, we're thinking about competency. We tend to think about a one-off situation, a one-off training, a one-off feature communication. No, repeat, repeat, repeat. So super important. And that gives us this overarching sense of, it's not just what I need to achieve here, it's also about who I am becoming. And a nice little example here for you. I might need to become more skilled at using Power BI within my role, but actually who I am becoming is about becoming more confident around data. And if you lead with focusing on building your confidence around data, the skills that you will achieve, the skills that you will build around Power BI will be far more than just going straight to the right-hand side of this screen. And it's about using what you can see on the screen in front of you here in the design of how we're delivering for user adoption in our projects and our programs. So coming to the end of today's session, I just want to, as always, just remind everybody that everything that you've heard today obviously is a tiny little snippet of how we humanize transformation. And how we humanize transformation is a program that we can also go on ourselves, and it's a program that also has a certification element to it, to understand what it means more deeply to humanize transformation, working through the framework, working through the approach, and of course working through our own practice of role modeling modernity, because that's how it rubs off on others. So incredibly important. If you would like to know more about that, then please do be in touch with me. And also, as always, for everybody that joins us on these live sessions and on playback, a strategy session is available for you to have with me, because it's really important for us all to be able to take some time out now at the end of the year, more than ever before, to take some time out and just think about, why am I here now? And where is now? Where do I want to be in the future? And am I on the right trajectory? So thinking about the alignment between now and your future, and understanding some of the techniques that might help you to get there. So if you'd like to know more about those strategy sessions, then please do be in touch with myself, and I'll pop the link into the playback. But today, really is about those 3 tenets, and more importantly, strategically giving ourselves permission to understand these 4 M's, the 4M model of modern business and modern transformation. How much time and permission are you giving yourself to your own mindset development, your own evolution of beliefs, so that you are the role model? Does your strategy and vision capture minds? Does it capture hearts? Can you reposition it so that you can humanize that strategy and vision? Become mission orientated. So put a little step before you design what work packages or what projects and programs are required. Put a little step there for not just obvious collaboration, but non-obvious radical transformation, collaboration. And I can tell you, inviting people that might be completely disassociated with your idea of your mission that you're talking about, they will come, and what incredible value they might bring to you is super important. And the final one, of course, is that enablement of innovation within daily life. We really want to make sure that micro shifts designed from the future to now, every single one of them guiding forward, rather than just thinking about getting better by 1%. Getting better by what we're doing is super important, because that gives us that sense of evolution, that gives us that sense of innovation coming into daily life. Microshift is so super important. Summary for today, what a big one. Strategy. It's quite hard, isn't it? When you think about strategy, you talk about strategy, it's so nebulous, but it's so incredibly important. Difference should ground our strategic story. Without question, difference, not betterment, difference should ground our strategic story. Yes, there might be areas that could and should be better, but if we try and push the boundary towards difference to ground our strategic story, then we are in the realms of transformation. The 3 tenets should guide the strategic focus, because if they do guide our strategic focus, we know that we are humanizing. Right at the start, we've got some humanized anchor points, humanized foundation. And using that 4M model to bring the whole thing to life from ourselves in terms of who we are, the strategy in terms of capturing hearts and minds with Moonshot, the design of our work packages and projects through mission orientation and bringing in non-obvious collaboration, radical collaboration, to the tiny little steps, all in the same direction. So incredibly important. So that's the summary for today, which also brings me to today's banana skins. And the banana skins for today are, please, wherever you can, choose, and I don't know why I've got choose better before different. It should say choose different before better. So we'll definitely update those slides before they send out to you. I don't know. I hope to goodness that there's not a little bit of a faux pas coming in there for me. Choose difference before better. Always, wherever you can. Really is. The banana skin is if you choose better before different. If you choose better before difference, that's where you'll slip up. We want to make sure that we choose difference before better. And the other thing as well is, is detaching yourself from the project and program. This is the stuff that I'm working on. This is what I need to do. Forgetting about who you are in terms of how you show up, forgetting the power of you. Detaching and separating yourself from a project and program is really big banana skin for me. You really can slip up from that perspective. And there you go. So that is the end of today's weekly moment, the end of today's session around that high level strategy. So if you are doing a retrospective on your project and program or your transformation from a strategic perspective, because it's the end of the year, if you are starting to think and mull around what a new transformation or the start of a project or program for 2023 might look like, then thinking about today, these 2 approaches, the 3 tenets and the 4M model, and the 7 things within that will be really, really, really powerful for you. And, I think the last thing to share with everybody today is always remembering that who we are leads what we do. So thank you everybody for joining me on today's session. As always, we will be sending the recording out. If you'd like the slides, all you need to do is just respond to my email, either sent out today or tomorrow, with slides in the subject area, and we'll get these slides to you. And if you'd like a little bit more information or join me on a pro bono strategy session, then please do feel free to join me. And again, that information and those links will be sent to you later on today or tomorrow. Have a fantastic day today, or at the end of the day, have a lovely evening. And I shall see everybody next week to talk about another element as we move into the end of the year, and we're thinking about reflection, and we're doing retrospectives, and we're starting to slow down. So we'll be talking about something very, very interesting next week as we come to the end of the year. So take care, stay well, be connected, and lead with who you are, not what you do. Thanks, everybody. Take care and have a great day.